Hi, and welcome to A Drummer's Guide to, the podcast all about the things it takes to be a professional musician, aside from actually playing your instrument, which we're going to take as a given, or which we're going to take as a given. My name is Emily Dallin Davis. I'm a drummer by trade. I have been touring and recording and being a professional and all that sort of stuff for the last 18 years, and I want to share my experience with you, basically. So today I want to talk about something that is very close to my heart, and it was, I don't even know who drew it to my attention as a good subject topic, but I sort of asked people on Instagram of their experiences, and this is saying no. Saying no to gigs as they come up, recognising when it's time to move on from a gig, and I just wanted to share with you how I deal with that, the markers that I use, and how I actually physically end up saying no to people, because it is the hardest thing for a number of reasons, but I think that it is something that is very universal. I think that there is this culture around being certainly a professional musician of like, you just have to take all the work that you can, you have to say yes to everything, and that's not just a financial thing, it's expanding your network kind of thing, it's expanding your skill set type of thing, and I'm a proponent of it. I'm a proponent of saying yes to many things, because that is how I managed to get where I am, 100%. Like, that is a huge part of the reason. My stomach is going because I'm getting a bit hungry already. But anyway, but I also recognise that it is a very, it's not even an important skill, it's an integral skill. Not sure that's the right word, is the ability to say no, but say no in a good way, in a nice way, in an informed way, and taking action when things aren't right, because I often hear people who are very miserable what they're doing. You know, they're living the dream, as it were. They're making a professional living, but either their mental health is suffering, or their relationships are suffering, or any number of things, but they're not able to allow themselves to walk away for various reasons. So I just wanted to talk about my experience with that, I suppose, and the things that I kind of find within myself, also what other people are finding as well. Like I say, I opened this up on my Instagram because I wanted to hear your guys' experience of saying no, how that's been difficult when you've done it, just everything surrounding that, because it's very fun to say yes, it's easy to say yes, and you know, it feels good, but then the actual reality of the repercussions of saying yes to especially many things can be very detrimental to us all, to yourself, to the people you're working with. It's not a one. So for me, the first kind of markers that I have, what I kind of recognise my mental health markers, if you like, when I'm doing something that maybe I should be moving away from. And for me, and I think this is quite universal from what I've been sort of talking to people about, is sort of a general stress, a general sort of anxiety. For me, is feeling overwhelmed. 100%. I know I've taken on too much. I've said yes to too much when I start feeling overwhelmed. And what happens to me is I end up getting ill. I run myself down, and my body literally shuts down. So in quite an extreme way. So when that happens, I know that I should have noticed this earlier, to be honest. So I'm getting better at kind of like just noticing my internal dialogue, my feelings about things that are happening, and I question them, and I notice them and go, right, what's going on here? Is this something that is in anxiety because I'm being stretched in a good way, in a positive way? I think they call it eustress, is that right? It's kind of a productive stress, or is it something that is actually a problem, or will become a problem if I don't address it? And again, I think it's very down to the individual what those markers are for you. So maybe it's worth looking retrospectively at what has happened when you have ended up in a situation that was not right, that was not correct. So for me, like I say, it's two things. Either I'm being asked to do something, or I'm already doing something. And when I notice these markers, when they come up, Because again, if I'm being asked to do something and I'm finding stress or anxiety, sometimes it's just feeling insecure and with no real background to it, and actually it's a reason to motivate me to move forward. It was sort of piggybacking off the topic that I just spoke about, with the common myths when it comes to being a professional. Like, I can use those things to forward myself. So I'll go into this anyway. So the first things that I kind of ask myself when I get asked to do stuff, or I'm currently in something and there's something in me just going, no, there's something telling me no, or I'm just noticing it, or I don't physically have the time, like, and I'm like, right, I need to make a choice on this. It's like, all right, the first question that I ask myself, because at the end of the day, when you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to a hell of a lot of other things. And whether that's time, you're using what little time we have on this planet to indulge in something, to move into something. So the first thing I will always ask myself, is it worth it? Is it worth the time that I'm going to be giving up? Is it worth the energy that I'm going to be putting in? Because me personally, I don't know whether you've noticed this about me, when I do things, I do them. I am all in 100%. I will give everything I physically have to what I'm doing. Like, it's just the way that I'm wired. I'm a hyper-focused person. I've got that laser beam going on, and it is just how I roll. For a long time I tried to fight it. I tried to, like, I don't know, level myself out. I don't really know. But the more that I've gone along in this life, the more I'm like, do you know what? It's how I'm built, and I can work with it or I can work against it. And for years I was trying to work against it. Again, I was making myself unwell by not noticing that this is who I am. And when I lean into who I am as this intense person, I'm an intense person, I actually get great results. I am able to help people in a whole nother way. And yeah, it just works for me. And there are trade-offs, and I have to balance my energy levels and all of that. But again, I know this about myself. So for me, it's right. Is it worth it? Is it worth the time, the energy, the effort that I'm going to put into this? And hopefully the answer is yes. And for me, it covers a few things. So one of my top things, if I were to say yes to a gig or a situation or an opportunity, the first thing, even just thinking about this, give me goosebumps. The first thing that, if this ticks this box, I am so likely to go for it, is like, I am willing to trade my time and my energy and part of my life if my skill set is being increased. I am obsessed with growth and getting better. Just as a human, generally, I love getting new skills. I've spoken about this before. I am someone who loves Final Fantasy. And one of the main reasons is because you walk around those worlds and you fight monsters and you like get hold of magic and materia and whatever else, and you build up skills. And because you do that, you get further in the game, it becomes more fun. Like, I've always been wired that way. I love this idea of gathering up little skills and making that, well, what it's become for me is creating this unique thing that is me. And all the little skills that I have and the bigger skills that I have create this very unique situation. And it's the same for you. Whatever skills you have or develop and experiences, all of that, it makes you uniquely you. And I've become a bit of a skill junkie, to be honest. So if there's something that gives me a challenge that feels like it's just on the periphery of what I'm capable of, that really compels me. I'm just like, oh, that is so enticing. That is an enticing proposition for me. So for me, skills is a really big one in terms of, is it worth me trading my energy and all of that sort of stuff? Obviously, the obvious one, is it worth it monetarily? Like, if I get asked to do something for free, but the skills that I'm going to gain are going to be huge, I'm more likely to say yes. If the money is really great, but I'm not earning any extra skills from it, that can work too. Like, that is a trade-off. And if I'm willing to if I'm willing to take that money for the lack of growth, okay, because at the end of the day, that time and energy I could be putting into learning more skills. For instance, like my degree. So it's kind of, skills is a really big one, actually. I'm only just realizing this. But again, also, I need to pay my bills. So therefore, if the money is there, great. It's like, okay, does that pay my bills? Is it worth it? Absolutely. All right, let's go with it. And the third one is it fulfilling for me? Musically, the people that I'm working with. And again, all of these things, if all of these things are hit, oh my goodness, that's like the golden one. The golden situation is the holy trinity of being a professional musician for me personally. And your holy trinity might be different. It might be, it might not be. But if an opportunity can hit one of those, I'm probably doing it. If it can hit two, yep, more likely. And if it's hitting all three, I'm doing it. I'm sorry, I'm doing it. I will sacrifice other things. I will sacrifice my own time, my own energy, because I know that it's worth it. And you know, there have been gigs where all three of those been hit. Oh man, the best, the absolute best for me. Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a really, when you're thinking about, you know, do I want to do this or do I want to continue doing this? Are you getting something from it? Are you gaining a skill? Or are you just doing it for the sake of it? There's another element to this is the potential of a situation. So I have had this too, where I've said yes to things through the fear of missing out, the FOMO, and that is not a great reason to do things. I'd love to tell you that holy trinity of gigs has happened as much as the FOMO option, like reason for getting into things. No, the FOMO option has gotten me into so many situations that I've ended up being very resentful about towards myself or other people, and it's purely because I saw. It wasn't even the potential, because the looking back, the evidence wasn't there. It was more like my own sort of narrative that I was telling myself. I mean, I suppose at the time I thought it had potential. I must have done. I wouldn't have done it otherwise. But there are situations that I stayed in for much too long because I didn't reflect on whether I was gaining anything. And sometimes I was actually losing things. So, and in terms of like when I personally, I'll let you into my personal reasons that I will say no to things. So obviously, if those three things are hit, I'm in. I'm essentially in. But I know when I'm leaving a situation, should we say. I know when I'm playing in a situation and I start noticing these, first of all, it'd be the mental health markers where I'm like, I don't feel great about this, or something feels off, and sometimes I can't put my finger on it. But there are particular things that will make me exit a gig, should we say, pretty swiftly. One of the most powerful ones for me is how the other people in the situation treat others, whether it's each other within the situation or whether it's external people. There's a particular professional outfit that I was a part of for a while, and I always remember there was this very specific moment, and one of the people involved in that were talking to the local crew. It was a local monitor engineer, like a piece of rubbish. I almost just swore. It was so awful, and I was like, I don't want to be here. I am not that person. I am not the person that is going to talk down to anyone, let alone so degradingly. It was really bad, and I was like, okay, A, I'm not comfortable with this, but B, I don't want to be associated with this. Because when I would say that I was playing with that outfit, there would be a reaction, and it wasn't a positive one. And what I found was people would, like, you are the company you keep, you know. I truly, I've been saying this actually recently to a few people. I believe, now please feel free to disagree, that's fine. I believe that the people that you have in your life, the relationships that you have, whether that's friendships, romantic relationships with family members, I believe that those people are very much a reflection of who you are. And also, well, I was actually saying recently, I think it's a reflection of your relationship with yourself, which I find really interesting. I do. It's a theory that I've come up with recently. I'm playing it out, and the more that I'm thinking about it, the more I think about myself back in the day, the more that I think that this is true. But anyway, another topic for another time. But I do believe that you are a reflection of the company that you keep. In the same way, you know, when you maybe you've met someone and then you meet their friends and you think, oh, their friends are a bit off, but you think that person is like really amazing, and it's like, that there's an incongruence there. And I find the same with professional outfits, where it's like, okay, if I stay with this lot, people are going to think that I'm that sort of person that they are known for. They are known to be not great, not very nice, don't treat people well. I'm not that person. I always want to treat people well. It's just who I am. And to not only witness that by not saying anything, and at the time I didn't feel I could say anything, I'm enabling that. And then I'm associating with that. That just didn't sit with me. And I remember the moment that I was like, no, I'm not happy here. And I noticed it. And then, I remember this so well. There was a particular gig we were doing. It was very high profile. And I was stood on stage. And I remember thinking, I want to do a bad job for this outfit because I'm so angry at how they treated people, and I just didn't want them to have me. I didn't want to enable. That's how I felt. And as soon as I felt that, I was like, I'm out. And that was very early on for me. And I remember that feeling. I can still remember exactly how it felt, the thought process, where I was. I just remember it so vividly. And that seems to be the common factor with me. I will notice this similar way of thinking where I'm like, I don't want to be here anymore, or I'm not interested in doing a good job at this anymore, or I don't condone how this person is acting or these people are acting. I will not be associated. I'm not here in this life. I'm not here to convince anyone of anything. I will conduct myself in the way that I choose to. Some people like it, some people don't. That's fine. But I'm not here to convince you that my way is the right way. Absolutely not. Not in a million years, because I don't know. I'm just doing the best I can and sharing that and hoping that that will spark ideas in other people. So I wouldn't be the person that when people are acting out, I wouldn't necessarily... I might address it in a soft way, but I wouldn't address it in such a way that you're wrong and what you're doing is incorrect and therefore you're a bad person or anything like that. I'm not that person. I will lead by example, absolutely. But I would never, everyone's got their reasons for doing things, and their own past experiences that inform them to think that things like that are okay. And that's up to them. I'm not here to change anyone's mind, as it were. But I can make a decision for myself. And by doing that, I found myself aligned with people that are so much more, kind and treat people with respect and a laugh, and happen to be phenomenal musicians as well, which is awesome. But yeah, the more that I've done that, the more that I've sort of ended up in places where I'm much happier. And I see people around me who don't make that decision, and they end up normalizing behavior that maybe they did not enjoy in the first place, and that becomes the baseline, and that is a terrifying prospect to me. So therefore, like I say, for me it's great if I'm getting into a situation and I'm getting paid nicely, my skill set is going up, brilliant, I'm finding it really fulfilling musically, amazing. All of that is completely negated, eclipsed by if I'm around people that are treating other people badly. Like, literally, it is the quickest way to get me off of any gig. So if you ever want me off a gig, that is how you do it. I'm literally giving you the keys to the castle there, 100%. Like, I'm not about it. I'm not about it. But like I say, I do recognise these things. But, sometimes it's not as overt as that. Sometimes it's something just niggling in me, and I'm like, this doesn't feel right. And again, it's often because I don't feel like I'm growing anymore. I feel like I've become stagnant in a situation. And although it may be fun still, if I'm not growing, if I'm not feeling fulfilled, I'm out. Like, I could probably stick around for a bit longer if need be, but I'm out. Like, it's just not a thing for me, and it's a personal, it's just my personal feelings. Obviously, you're gonna have your own markers, but it's worth noticing what those are. And also something else that I do, and I've done this from early days, since my very first band ever, and I really truly, I've been doing this since I was like 13. That sounds a bit crazy when I say it like that, but it's true. I've always set deadlines to reflect on what I'm gaining from a situation, in terms of, am I gaining skills? Am I gaining, back in the day it was, am I gaining like eyeballs? Is this a named artist, for instance? Or like I say, if it's not a named artist, am I gaining skills? If it's not that, am I earning enough money that I can pay my rent? That's a big deal. Or is it really fulfilling because of the people that I'm with? And I would reflect and say, is it enough? Is it enough? Is it worth it? Or would I be better suited putting my time in other places? Obviously, if I'm feeling anxious or overwhelmed with it, or stressed or whatever, or getting sick from it, is it worth it? Probably not. That's probably going to be the biggest thing, that like, if I'm getting sick, either I need to change my approach, or I need to get out of there and notice what in the world is going on. So I will always set a deadline. So if there's this slight feeling in me like, I feel like I shouldn't be here anymore, I will set a deadline, and depending on the gig that it is or whatever, it might be a natural break in a tour or whatever, or the end of work that I've been told about, for instance. And then what I will do is I will notice how I'm feeling throughout that period of time, and I will tee up, like, now I'm getting into exactly how I exit. Let's say I've decided I want to exit a gig. I will tee up other work after, say, the end of a tour, so that I know that I've got something to go to. And I will, rather than being like, I'm leaving, and it being this, I'm not about burning bridges. I'm not, it's just not in my nature. And call it what you want. There's a reason, I'm sure, that I do that. But I want to stay friends with all the people that I've worked with. I really do. I think I've done an all right job of that. I think I haven't been perfect, definitely not. But I would never want to leave with a big bang. I would never want to leave people in the lurch, obviously. So often, if I'm lucky enough, and it's sort of like a natural end to a chunk of work, when I'm asked about dates for the next chunk of work, I'll be like, I'm really sorry, I'm actually doing XYZ. I'm busy doing XYZ. The other thing is I always try to not lie. I'm not. I feel very uncomfortable with lying. So that's one of the good things about having your own business. Can I just say, like, in terms of like my remote recording business, because I knew that I could say that I'm busy and make myself busy with clients and put my time and energy into my remote recording business. So that was a really good benefit of that, because then I was never lying. Like, truly, it was just like, no, I'm doing that after that. And it takes a lot of what's the word, like bravery, I think, to like believe in yourself, like invest in yourself and bet on yourself, I suppose, and go, right, I'm choosing to do this. That's a scary prospect, like relying on yourself. At the same time, the more you do it, the more empowering it gets, and the more, like, right now as I sit here, I know in my bones that no matter what, whatever I choose to move into, I will make it work. I was going to say I will be successful. I don't think that's not the right word. It doesn't sit right with me. I will make it work. I will, if I want to be making a living from it, I will make a living. I will find a way, because it's how I'm built, and I've done enough stuff where I've bet on myself and relied on myself and my judgment and the way that I've done things, that I know that I can do that. It's not even a question. It's not easy. I know that it's hard, but I do know that I can do that. And there's a great amount of confidence that comes with that. It does take time, obviously. A lot of time, a lot of turmoil, a lot of testing, a lot of failure. It's all the good stuff. It's all the good stuff. But anyway, so generally speaking, what I'll do is, if there's a natural break, I'll be like, look, I can't do that. However, and this is the other thing, I will never leave people in the lurch. I'll be like, however, I can suggest these people to do those shows or whatever else. So I will always try and work collaboratively, so that I'm not, leaving a bad taste in people's mouths. This industry is small, and in the same way, if you're associated with a certain group of musicians or whatever, that can be bad. Like, oh, don't worry, you can ruin your own reputation too. So let's keep your reputation intact as best you can. Obviously, there's situations where you're not able to leave in a graceful way, should we say? But I think that it's always worth just trying to be as accommodating as you can be, and whether it is like, I will agree to do the rest of these shows, but on these conditions, or whether it's, I need to leave right now, but here's a person to step in, or it could be something outside of your control, like if there's stuff going on in life. At the end of the day, people on the whole are very understanding of when life things happen. Like, I will say that there are a few stories that I've heard where artists have not been understanding of very major life events. I never want to work with those people. I'm not going to lie to you. There's plenty of other artists out there. I don't like it. I don't like that people put themselves on such a high pedestal that they believe that other people's major life events are less important than their tour. I don't like it. I don't like it. It angers me. It's that level of arrogance, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure it's coming from a place of insecurity. I'm sure it is, but at the same time, there are more people in the world than just you. You know what I mean? Anyway, sorry, I'm thinking about one particular person, one artist that really was not cool to a friend of mine. And nah, I'm not about that. Not about that life. Anyway, but that's how I tend to try and say no. And I just recognise, is the reason for me leaving this? Like, what is the reason that I want to get away from this? Is this just insecurity on my part that I feel I need to grow? Or I'm just feeling vulnerable, I'm feeling insecure? Is it that? If it's that, I try and lean into it and just see. This is the other thing. I will still put a deadline on it and see how it goes. Like, I'll be completely transparent. There was a time with the Voice Kids, I think it was after the first year, I was so flipping insecure with that gig. I was contemplating, like, maybe I shouldn't be here. Like, I was so insecure. As it turns out, it was just insecurity, and I was trying to make excuses to make it make sense to leave or something, or to not say yes to the next season. But the reality was, nothing was quite, all the reasons that I thought I had in my head just weren't quite sitting. They weren't quite, you know what it's like when you know if it's what you're saying, if you're being honest with yourself. Do you know what I mean? And what it came down to realistically was that I was insecure. I was very self-conscious, and it did take me a couple of years to realize that and get with the program, as it were. And as soon as I did and started leaning into the things that I was trying to avoid, which is what I was actually doing, I was just so scared of certain areas of my playing that I would rather run away than face these things that I thought were the most scary things in the world. Turns out they weren't. Actually, they were rectified pretty quickly, all things considered. But yeah, I was more interested in running away for a period of time. But once I didn't, oh man, it was the best. It was the best thing ever. And of course, as soon as I finally got to a place where I was like, I'm comfortable now, this is fun, it went away and got cancelled. How poetic. Anyway, is what it is, isn't it? I've still got the skills to show those, so that's fine. But yeah, anyway, I hope that this has helped you in some way in terms of, like, I don't know, just assessing whether you should be in a situation, whether you should leave. I hate the word should, but yeah, just should for yourself, not from where I'm sat, if you know what I mean. Like, just assess it from within, whether you want to be there or not, and then act on it. That's the hard bit as well, but there's always a good way of doing it. Oh, let me share with you one of my favourite ways. I probably shouldn't share this, and I apologise for anyone that is listening that I may have said this to. Please know that it's with love, and it's just because I find difficult conversations difficult, but also because I always want to stay on a good I want to stay in good relationships with people always. I want to always have an open line of communication with everyone in my life. I want to leave that door open no matter what. My favourite thing to be able to say to people that I've decided that, let's say they ask me to do a gig or they want me to commit more or whatever, my favourite thing to say, that is often true, again, I don't like to lie, is that I can't give you what your music needs or deserves. And that's true, whether that's a time thing, an energy thing, a skills thing, you know, or I can't, because I can't commit to it in the way that it needs to be committed to. I find that's a really good way of doing it, because it's framing it in a way that is like they're the important one, because they're the ones that are creating the thing. I'm just here to provide a service, essentially. So it's kind of a respectful way of being like, I'm not doing this because, you know, any number of negative reasons, is literally because I can't be the person that you need me to be for this, and what your music deserves. So I hope that helps you in some ways. And again, I definitely promote not lying. That's always a bad shout. Aside from anything, my memory is so bad. It's impossible for me to lie. I can't even remember the truth, let alone a lie. My brain, honestly. But hey ho. I am what I am. Anyway, I hope you're having a nice day. If you have enjoyed this episode, if it's helped you in any way, please do feel free to like, share and subscribe. Thank you again to everyone on Instagram that kind of shared their experiences. It sounds like a lot of people were dealing with saying yes to too much, having FOMO, dealing with a lot of anxieties around this. So I hope that this has helped you in some way. And yeah, if you'd like to come catch me over on Instagram, I'm talking about all sorts of other stuff as well as on this podcast, obviously. If you look for me on there, just search for emilydrums.com. Honestly, it's the best way to do it. Also, if you want to delve further with me one-on-one, I now offer coaching. I have a few different programs available. Whether you are a musician that is trying to get into the professional sphere, I can help you with that. Or if you're already doing the thing but you just need some support, some accountability, you want to look into refining certain areas of your professional career that you feel might not be up to scratch, I'm here to help. And yeah, just get in touch. Over on Instagram is probably the best place. So if you want to go to the actual Instagram thing, it's instagram.com/EmilyDrumsCom. EmilyDrumsCom. It's the worst handle. But at this point, I keep telling you what it is, so I can't even change it, really. Probably could. Search for EmilyDrums.com, just in case I changed it. Anyway, I hope you're good. I hope you're having a great day, wherever you are, whatever you're up to, and I will see you next time for another subject. All right, lots of love to you. Mwah. Bye.